did somebody from Iuka, Illinois, end up in Santa Fe, New Mexico in 1959?
That's a good question, but it's a very circuitous route. When I got back from Korea in 1954, I just knew damn well I didn't want to stay in Southern Illinois, and I wanted to do something, but I had the GI Bill, so I decided, well, I'll give college a shot. So I spent a year and a half at a junior college. Then I went off to Southeast Missouri State and spent a year and a half there, all the time knowing that what I really wanted to do was go west. I had gotten a little hunk of money from an accident that I didn't have it. I was in a car and they settled with me. So I had enough money to get out of town, to leave with, buy a 57 Ford Thunderbird, which I absolutely loved. I went west in. But what we did, I went off to New Orleans for a few days, for a while.
So most of this was with your friend Bob Young, who you grew up with in high school?
Yes, most of it was. But before Bob and I left Illinois together, I had another friend, Fred Martin. He was an old friend of both of us. We went off to New Orleans for a while. We went to California, and I thought I wanted to be in show business, and Fred didn't care what he was doing. He thought he'd be a professional golfer, which he was a hell of a golfer.
Fred was also from Iuka?
No, he was from Salem.
Okay.
And but we were all kind of in the same mental state when we got back, all of us back from the service. So that's when we headed west to California. That's when I changed my name from Estel, which was my father's name, family name, which I wasn't too happy with, obviously. But I bought this little Thunderbird, which was just a gorgeous car. And it was almost brand new, but the guy that had had it before me had put custom black and white leather seat covers on it. Oh, it's gorgeous. But in the middle, I didn't know what the hell to do. It had an initial, V.
Okay.
So me and Fred were just thinking, I just cannot go to California. You can't possibly be in show business with a name like Estel. So one of us came up with there was an old actor named Bent Bonner. And I have no idea what happened to him before or since. But we just said, my God, that's a good name. It starts with a V. What else do I need? So we went off to Las Vegas. And we had an old friend who was a pit boss at the Old Frontier Hotel. They had two or three casinos on the Strip. That was the full extent of it.
That was it? Just 2 or 3 casinos at that time?
That was it, and nothing else. And I had another friend that I had met who was a lounge singer. Mm-hmm. Actually, was quite famous lounge singer. Frank Sinatra said he was his favorite singer in the whole world, which is kind of nice for him. His name was Frank Derone, and we went to work at the Frontier Hotel. But for our pit boss gambling friend, and what we did, they put us to shilling. You know how they.
So you were pretending to play.
Playing money for the house.
Right.
And
to keep it look like there was action.
It looks like there's some action on the table. So, but we did that for a couple of weeks or so, and oh my God, I said, this is fun. It looks like it could be fun forever, but I knew myself very well, and I just did not trust myself to be in Las Vegas as a career. And gambling in particular, I would have probably lost my little Thunderbird. I wasn't up to that. But then we went on to California. And I thought, I loved California when we got there. It was just beautiful. The weather was great. But we went straight to Hollywood, the two of us, and found back then they had all these little casitas, little bungalows, motels. And we found a little place there. It was really sweet. We could have stayed for a while and started doing the tourist things. But I've always suffered, all my life I suffered from some respiratory problems, which I had to deal with, and I dealt with them, and they didn't slow me down much, obviously. But we got up the next morning from the motel, and I walked outside, and I'm telling you, you have no idea what it was like. You could hardly see across the street at that time. The
smog?
The smog was so bad, and the lady was a real sweet lady that owned the tourist court, and she said, I came out and I said, oh my God, I said, I must have some allergies wrong with me. My eyes were just running and I couldn't breathe. She said, honey, welcome to the air you're going to breathe in California if you stay here. So that, needless to say, that didn't last. We went back went back to Southern Illinois for a while, and then I met my old friend Bob Young, and Bob.
And this is who you would go on to start the El Farol with
Oh
eventually.
yeah, absolutely. I had I did get a job for a while with a Kerr Glass company. I was selling fruit jars. Now can you imagine? And Bob,
Not really.
And Bob was driving a cast potato truck. Really cute, but it was funny. So we said, "Oh my God, we got to get it." I had an old friend there that had always wanted to go west. He had a filling station. He was very successful, and I spent a lot of time out there because I really, really liked Ray, and we both did. And he just kept telling us. He said, "I've spent all my life wanting to go west, where you have the opportunity." And he said, "I have a family now. I'm a family man. My health isn't that great." And he said, "I have a good business. I just will not do it." But he said, "If you guys don't do it, I'll never speak to you again as long as I live." But anyway, after that, we went to talk with Bob's mother and tell her that we were going to take off. And, she said, "If you're going to go west," she said, "I've got a friend in Grand Lake, Colorado," which was a little tourist area, a really wonderful little place. She owns some resort cabins there. She said, "I'll call her and see if there's any opportunity for you for the summer in that area." So she called her, and the gal was just sweet. She said, "Oh my God, send them out." She said, "I'll have fun and I'll enjoy them, and they can stay here until they find something." So we cut out for Grand Lake, Colorado first. She introduced us to an old gentleman that owned a cafe called the Corner Cupboard Cafe. It was the biggest cafe, almost the only one in town. There was a couple little diners. But anyway, he was head chef at the Palmer House in Chicago, which was a huge, huge place. And he had credit for discovering the little dollar-sized donuts.
Huh.
He hired us right away, and Bob had been a cook in the military, and I'd always had a feel for it, and I could always cook. But we turned into the cooks in that place.
And this was at Grand Lake, Colorado.
In Grand Lake, and they had a gal that was a chef there. She was a chef, but she was just wonderful. I love chefs are not normally someone you cater to because they're almost always meaner than hell. And
no pun intended.
no pun intended at all. She really thought the world of me. I was like her son. She treated me like she taught me all these things, sauces, how to do all these things in the kitchen. After about, I don't know, a couple of months, I guess, she got a better job over in Estes Park.
Okay.
And which is across the Trail Ridge Road over to Estes Park. Well, she called me and said, "Ben, I just would love to work with you, and I hated to leave you over there in the first place." And I said, when I said, "Well, if I come, I had to bring Bob." And Bob was a funny guy. He was show business without, but he was everything. He was a singer. He was a politician, and wonderful stories about him too. But she said, "Well, I just don't like Bob much." And I said, "Well, there's just no way I would leave him, because we were good. We were having fun together too." She said, "Well, bring him over. I'll hire him too." We went over there, and it was funny. It was in August, and going across Trail Ridge Road in August, it snowed on us. So that tells you something. But she was over at a place called Swiss Village. It was a Jewish resort, primarily Jewish, and the people that owned it were Jewish from St. Louis. And the guy that ran it was head of the dean of the College of Engineering in Washington, at Washington University in St. Louis. And I really liked him. He came out for the summer to run the place for the family. So we all had they gave me us a little cabin. It was wonderful, private, and just almost like the guests had. And but anyway, after we worked for a while, and the guy that owned it, he didn't like Bob either. Oh, Bob died a while back, so we won't tell him. Well, we laughed about this 100 times. And he said, "Well, Ben, I'm good. You're staying." And I said, "Well, what am I going to do with Bob?" He said, "He can just stay here." So Bob spent the rest of the whole damn season. I was in there working my butt off, cooking 100 steaks at a Friday night. And Bob was sitting out there around the pool with those people that were paying like $125 a day. But he was just like a guest. And he just loved it.
That kind of became his permanent
It
gig,
did.
actually, knowing Bob. It was the rest of his life.
Honest to God, it did. And he was always show business. He was a good singer. In high school, he did all the Naughty Marietta and all the musicals and everything. But that was his stick, you know. In fact, he turned to politics before we left Salem. And he ran for an office there. And he just damn near defeated the guy that had been there for 25 or 30 years. And Bob was the downstate chairman of the Young Democrats in the state of Illinois, which was really a good thing. But he had all the personality for it. But he lost the election, so he was ready to go with us. But after we stayed there for the summer, they closed down in the winter. Of course, I can't remember when, about October the 15th or something like that, maybe a little before. Well, Annie had a job then to go up in Alaska, where she wanted me to go up there, but thank God I didn't. I didn't want to. Too damn cold. So they gave me the head job and I finished the season with them as the head cook. But I finished the season. They tried to hire me back for the next year, but I just said, no, I don't make plans that far in advance. And in the meantime, we had been down to Aspen, and we got a job for the winter at the at the Red Onion, rather. We got the job, and we just both decided this is not where we want to stay. It's just too cold. I hated cold weather in the winter in Salem, and I didn't like it there either. And I wasn't much of a skier. I skied, but I was dressed nice, and take a run, and go drink at the bar when I loved that part of it. But we headed for south. We went to Scottsdale, Arizona. And Scottsdale was new then. I mean, it was really a new, very kind of shishy place. But at that time, it was out in the desert and had orange groves and everything between that and Phoenix. It was a wonderful place. So I really did love it there. And weather was great. But anyway, we stayed on this estate, which was just beautiful. The old lady was, here again, old lady, but she was wonderful. She took us in, gave us a little place to stay. And she had another guy that lived there was a barn back there with a little apartment in it. Well, it so happened that this guy was an artist from Santa Fe, Harry Miller. He said, oh, if you're looking for a job, he said, there's a couple from Santa Fe that have started a little second restaurant here over on Fifth Avenue. He said, I'll take you over and introduce you. And he said, I think you'll just love them. Well, it turned out that she owned the Pink Adobe in Santa Fe, and it was a very, very famous restaurant even at that time. But
so that would have been Rosalie.
That was Rosalie and her husband Ray. So I went over and they hired me immediately. She said, well, go to work. It's lunch. So I went to work for her. And the thing I loved about it so much is I met so many really interesting people. Started that kind of meeting interesting people. And the two guys that started Arizona Highways, and then several people from Santa Fe, Don Libby from Libby Soup Guy, you know what I mean? You just don't meet people in normal places like that. After about 2 or 3 months, I came over to work, and the front door was locked, closed. I said, closed. So I went around to the back door and I opened it. I said, Rosalie, I said, why are you closed? I was ready to go to work. Well, she said, Ben, I can't stand this damn place. I can't stand it. We're going back to Santa Fe. We're going back to the restaurant that I love, and I know it's not being taken care of. So she said, we're going back. And I said, well, oh, God. I said, I don't whine all that much. But I said, I just love this place, and I love what I'm doing, and I love being here with you all. She actually looked at me like I was just nuts. You'd have to really know Rosalie to get a grasp of the concept of how she felt. And she said, well, you're not staying in this damn place. You're going to Santa Fe with us.